Hi, I'm here at Goodwood Festival of Speed 2017. I'm here with Nick Mason, and we're just going to talk about Goodwood and inspiration and role models. So what brings you back? Because I've been here a few years, and I've seen you've been around a few years. So
I really enjoy it. It's a sort of, it's just a sort of perfect mix in a way, even though it has changed over the last 20 odd years. But there's lots of friends here, terrific cars, the opportunity to drive them. What's not to like?
there's a few different things we like. The fact that you can get so close to the cars, and there's cars from so many different eras. Every time we see things that stand out to us. What excites you the most when you get here?
Well, I think that's a good point, that thing about being able to get close to the cars, because it's one of the things that's really missing if you go to a Grand Prix. You're so distanced from the action. And I think particularly if you're a parent maybe, and you want to sort of, maybe you're passionate about cars and you want your kids to understand it, it's easier to explain it here than it is watching a race on television or going to a Grand Prix.
We just had a tour of Mercedes, and they showed us how much work goes into each car. We were looking at F1 cars. It's like hundreds of people. So we kind of took that for granted. When you're racing yourself, are you really rely on your team a lot?
Oh, completely, yes. And that's, I have to say, it's one of the things I really like. It's quite a nice mix. And there's an element of the way it complements music, because I'm in a band playing drums. You cannot operate on your own. You have to have the other musicians to make it work. Great thing about driving is the actuality of it. You are on your own, but you still have that team element. That means you rely on good engineering to get the car to the start line.
So you mentioned music and your work drumming with Pink Floyd. We are big music fans at Renaissance Foundation, and we all like different careers. Some want to be accountants, some want to be entrepreneurs, some want to be doctors, but music brings us all together and inspires us. Could you tell us who inspires you? Because you've reached a lot of people, you've inspired many people over the years. How do you stay inspired?
Well, first of all, I think, I had inspirations firstly from music I liked when I was a kid and growing up, and then the arrival of rock and roll. And then what was really influential were the people who were around when we were starting out. So one would have to start with the Beatles, who were so important to, we wouldn't be here without the Beatles, because they changed the face of music and changed the way the industry thought. But also there was the great players of the time, Jimi Hendrix and Eric, but John Mayall, all those sort of R&B players. But I got to know Mitch Mitchell quite well, who was Jimmy's drummer, and people like that who were so sort of encouraging. And it's really, it's one of the most wonderful things when you meet someone who is a hero, and instead of them brushing you away, they go, "Oh yeah, man, no, it's great. Do this, do that."
Did you get to play with Mitch Mitchell? What was that like?
Well, we actually toured in late '67, I think it was. We actually did a tour with the Jimi Hendrix Experience. So we did we were on the show together for, I don't know, a couple of months or something. It was the days when you'd get these shows that would go to around the theatres, and there'd be maybe 6 different bands on who'd all do 15 or 20 minutes, and then Jimmy was headlining and he'd do 40. That was it.
You mentioned what brings you back to Goodwood. Someone who's never been before, what would you recommend them to see, to check out?
Well, the great thing is just leave yourself enough time to check everything out, because to watch the cars, the cars that are being timed going fast is terrific, but there's so much other stuff to see as well. And I think one of the great things is wandering around the paddock, and you can actually rub shoulders with Damon Hill or Mark Webber or whatever, and really get up close and look at these cars and watch people just working on them. It gives you a sort of sense of how these cars are looked after. You were saying, I think, that you'd been to see Mercedes. And I mean, a modern Formula One car, it has a backup of about, well, the team is at least 800 people in a factory somewhere, and probably another 200 sort of going out with the cars and doing all this, that, and the other. And it's a fantastic world. I mean, even if you're engaged in the catering, I mean, it's really fun and interesting.
I guess those 200 are lucky 200, right?
Well, they tend to be the best of the best. You know? I think to work under the sort of stress those guys work under, you know, if someone damages the car on the Friday afternoon, you need it ready to go on Saturday, ready to win a race, not to cobble it up to get round.
Sorry, we almost ended the interview without asking what's your favourite car, because I'm going to take your judgment. I've seen you've got nice taste in cars, so tell me what your favourite car is.
Well, I always have to say the Ferrari 250 GTO, because I've had it. It's been with me for over half my life, and it's still a wonderful car. It's still enormously exciting to drive. It's an old car now. It's well over sort of 60 years old, but it's still really exciting to drive. It's got this charisma, it's got history, and I bought it a long time ago. People thought I was insane buying it. Now they think I'm so clever. It's a great thing to have.
Perfect. I can't wait till you give us a lift in it later. Yeah.
Bit of a squash, I'm afraid.
Oh, thank you so much.